today, invited in that gallery, invited in the Oakland Museum. You know, there's a lot of galleries in the Bay Area, but a lot of these artists, beautiful artists here, aren't going to have a shot to get in those galleries. But that's all right, because I think what we want to do is communicate to our communities. That's the key thing. You know, talk to the grassroots. I'm not trying to make money off the art. We need to communicate with it. So this is the beginning of starting that whole motion. And each one teach one. I think anybody who's here today should talk to somebody else about the war. And come to some of the events. That's what Black Dot is about. That's what Eastside Arts is trying to do. Give it up for Black Dot.
We're calling it Everywhere is War because it's been a long time war, and we had a chance, myself, Brother Jorge, and I'm sure a few other people in this place, to be in Durban. And we learned a lot. We shot some video. So this Sunday we want to invite everybody to come in and check out some of the images that we got and some of the stories that we heard and share some food with us. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Where is it going to be?
It's on International Boulevard, 2300 International Boulevard.
East 14th Street.
East 14th Street.
Another thing the Black Dot got going on, the Eastside Arts Alliance Black Dot is the first annual Black Dot International Ritual Film Festival, December 19th through the 20th.
So Dwayne's going to talk about some action that we're having tomorrow, because when we talk about organizing against the war, it's not a cerebral thing. You can't just say, well, okay, I'm not killing anybody, but you have to take action against those who are actually killing people. And under the name of our government, under the name of our taxes, we are actually responsible for the actions that are going on in the Middle East. So the Asia Pacific Islander Coalition Against War is going to have an action tomorrow. Dwayne, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I'm going to set up, pass around this flyer. You can just pass it around, get one. You just pass it around. And there's some on the table. First off, I just want to, everyone should just pat themselves on the back, because they came out of their home, you guys all came out of your houses, came out here to congregate with other people who feel like-minded. And thank you, Greg, for creating a space in which we can talk to one another about our views, because Lord knows, out there, that's not happening. So what we of the Asian and Pacific Islander Coalition Against the War want for you to do is to leave this place feeling that somehow you were blessed tonight. You know, that you were in a capacity to think politically, to think critically. And also, we would like you to take that passion and hit the streets with it. We're organizing a demonstration tomorrow, Pearl Harbor Day, and we chose Pearl Harbor Day because, you know, ever since the World Trade Center and the Pentagon tragedy, there's been parallels made about this is the second Pearl Harbor. When we of the Asian APICAW believe that that we need to take a stance against that. That Pearl Harbor Day was provoked by the United States on Japan. That the United States made trade embargoes on Japan, making it no other necessary measures for it to do other than to attack the United States. And the same thing with what happened with the World Trade Center and what happened at the Pentagon. We need to say no to the war. We need to say that we have provoked other people to come and attack us, and we of the United States citizens need to get together and congregate and celebrate on the day of Pearl Harbor that's been made parallels. You know, celebrate peace. You know, peace among the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition people, and also with solidarity with all of our, you know, our South Asian brothers, our West Asian brothers and sisters, and then just solidarity with people of color. And then people of just the United States of America, it's owning our citizenship, owning our right to protest, and owning our right to feel the way we feel about this war, and taking it to the streets. So we hope that you can come out and join us tomorrow. It's starting on the flyer, you'll see it's starting at Powell Market at 2:45. And we're going to march over to the Philippines Consulate. We're going to make some demands of the Philippines Consulate. That is, the Philippines, I don't know how much education I should do, but simply the Philippines and Japan is abiding by the United States, and it's part of this coalition against war on terrorism. Specifically, Japan recently sent a self-defense force out to the Indian Ocean, which is in direct violation of its constitution. And this is the first time since World War II. And as for the Philippines, we all know that the bases are opening up, and the U.S. has traditionally and historically used the Philippines as a launching pad for all of its wars. And so we're protesting the Philippines consulate, and we're also going to be outside the Japanese consulate. And we're going to end up with a rally at the UN Plaza, making this not only a protest against our Asian ancestral homelands, but also other countries that are abiding by the United States and being part of this coalition. So we hope that you feel passionate enough to come with us and raise your arm and hand in solidarity, and that this is something that we need to do together as a community, especially on Pearl Harbor Day. It's hell no, Pearl Harbor Day cannot be seen as Americans as a day of revenge, but instead as a day for us to reanalyze that and to think about peace as a viable option and a just peace. So if you have any questions, come see me, but please do check out the flyer. Thank you.
Hey folks, I'm just going to post a couple real quick pieces. First of all, it's an honor to share this space here. I work with middle school students, that's all. Teach them spoken word and writing and try to, put in some consciousness into, before the media kind of gets to them. So this first piece came out of writing exercise with them. In the year of the new century, the sky burned at 45 degrees. A collapse in DC and the NYC. Twin brothers war-torn, forewarned of circular prophecies. Intoxication, yeah, they be slamming the nightly news and overdoses. See, TV's a drug that's plugged in, selective in what they feed, exhuming the un-Americanness within. Foreign policy crusade of the pale sin. African Muslim nights lit up by machines of war. Our blood is one like Chicanos, we done having to hide behind silent voice and brown skin. But who sets freedom's price? Is it president's advice or Bush oil family ties? It seems to be an eye for an eye. Pay attention to those you see the least for. Connections between the sword and the beast. The umbilical cord is profits for oil and market control. And Clear Channel and CNN is buying the rights to images of war. Battleship leaves port. Bombs a detonation upon drop. But it's an all-out media blackout.
Thank you.
This last piece was written for my father, so it's kind of about his immigrant experience. I am remembering my father's strong Spanish voice and eloquent words, memories of his broken English, he being reduced to incompetent by some white boy behind the cash register at some fast food place, while my 8-year-old ears completely failed to understand the quick, impatient, violent whip of English words lashing at father's bowed head, wondering how that made you feel. You see, 27 years ago, you strapped on your boots and fled the dry Mexican land torn from the roots. Now I continue your journey, it's the motivation for flowing. The whip cracks nostalgic pain, circulating like the Mexican experience in your veins. Circulating like the Mexican experience in these veins. I've been trying hard to communicate with life through poetry, but sometimes find myself not letting life communicate with me. Questions. Why are you so quiet? Why are you so serious? Yo, lighten up, and I hate that shit. It's called carrying the heavy burden of being a Chicano male in this capitalist America. Questions. Critical not to predetermined answers of questions in poem stanzas our media. Listen. The answers embedded like subliminal suggestions. I love creating pieces and performing them with eyes closed. Scribe on the fly these notes for a new millennium. On the constant mode of searching to expand unwritten and musical horizons. Keeping a wide open mind. Letting the creative fluid just go. Free flow, let freedom ring. Like broken chains on the concrete floor. Freedom's ring is congas back in subversive rhymes. Playing with polyrhythms, hip movements. We are sounds of Latino America. Contemplating and embrace Oye Bomba, the music fiend. But I'm just trying to stand up and flow, kicking it like popular education instead of just putting on a show. Ain't got a bag of tricks. Latinos seem to have been erased from the entertainment networks by the industry's big six. So therefore we throwing down in this space, but won't see us acting in the Hollywood flicks. In the Hollywood flicks. And so I retreat to heal the self and gather strength. Turn in for the night, begin a new day. Taking a second and reflecting on new lessons learned. Continue ahead, live life, be strong, communicating, cause closed mouths won't get fed. Peace.
Everybody get in the middle. Everybody get in the middle. Everybody be in the middle.
Stop the bombing, stop the hate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want no endless war. 7, 8. Stop the bombing, stop the hate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want no endless war. 5, 6, Mom, there's a lot of corrections. Stop the bombing, stop the hate.
Yeah, I'm recording right now.
Hey, Dwayne, can you pass these out to people to pass out?
Stop the bombing, stop the hate. We don't want no endless war. Stop the bombing, stop the hate.
USA!
We need some global justice. 2, we need some global justice. How we gonna get it? How we gonna get it? People power. 2, we need imperialist war now. 2, we need imperialist war now. 2, no. Yes. Just another part of it. Number 1 terrorist.
Alright, y'all, we're gonna get out of here. We're at Union Square, San Francisco. People out here at Union Square. If you're for peace and not war, please join us on this historic Touché march. We're out with a peaceful but powerful protest message. We know that there are other answers, not war, to stop what's going on in the world today. So we want to go with the message. Chant number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want no racist war.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop the bombing, stop the hate.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want no racist war.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop the bombing, stop the hate.
1, 2, 3, or 4.
We don't want no racist war.
Out of the Middle East. You say war.
We say peace. Let's out of the Middle East.
You say war.
We say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. What do we want?
Justice and war.
Hey, do we want it?
Now we want.
Alright. That's a whole meeting. Alright, the street, because we want them to look out the window and see how Filipinos and other Asian and Pacific Islanders are strongly against Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's support for Bush's so-called war on terrorism. Now we're going to take up the sidewalk. What we're going to do is we're going to keep marching in a circular fashion. We want to leave some space for people who are walking to be able to walk by and hear our message. And also right now, the Committee for Human Rights in the Philippines is going to send a small contingent of people to go up to the consulate, to invite the Consul General down, to invite their staff down. Because the Consul General of a Philippine country is supposed to listen to what the concerns of its people are. And we know with 2,000 Filipinos leaving the Philippines every day, that has to be that there's something dreadfully wrong. That there's problems in the Philippines that supporting a war against terrorism is not going to solve. So we're here, we want the Committee for Human Rights contingent to begin going upstairs to the consulate and invite those folks down. No justice, no peace. All right, we're gonna move down to the second one, chair number 16. The VFA is a treaty that allowed the military to come back to the Philippines. And we know what that's all about. Chant number 16 goes like this. U.S. military aid makes Philippine freedom a charade. Until we do away with the VFA, our people will always get played. Say what? U.S. military aid makes Philippine freedom a charade. Until we do away with the VFA, the people will always get played. I said U.S. military aid makes Philippine freedom a charade. Until we do away with the VFA, our people will always get played. One more time. U.S. military aid makes Philippine freedom a charade. Until we do away with the VFA, our people will always get played. Say what? Our people will always get played. U.S. military aid makes Philippine freedom a charade. Until we do away with the VFA, our people will always get played. War, we know there are other answers to solving the problems caused by what is we know as U.S. terror. We got Ron Romero coming at you right now.
Hello. I'm so proud to be among all you API and Third World and other people who are here to say no more war. To say that we're against the U.S.-led terror campaign against the world. We know that the war on terrorism is nothing more, nothing less than an imperialist war against the world and against the world's people to control resources and power. And on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, we're coming together to say no. No to using September 11th like you used Pearl Harbor to launch a war and expand its power throughout the world. We're saying no to the U.S. dragging countries like the Philippines into the war. And we are enraged that President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo is giving all-out support to this war by opening up the base, by allowing U.S. planes to refuel there, and inviting military advisors to enter the Philippines, to counsel the armed forces of the Philippines on how to crush the Moro and communist so-called terrorist problems in Mindanao. We know that all this does is add even more death to the hundreds already killed by the AFP and paramilitary and Philippine National Police over the past year. We know that this just means adding more refugees to the 700,000 people already displaced. We know this means just adding more human rights violations to the 85 already committed by the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police since Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo became president. Human rights violations like the 5 fishermen who were just killed in October by the 54th Infantry Battalion of the Army, who were called suspected NPA guerrillas, but were actually innocent civilians just trying to provide a life for their families. We know that the true targets of this war are the genuine people's movements, people like us who are saying no to war, and what we want is justice. And they're shamelessly trying to crush our movements and all resistance. And in the Philippines, the U.S. is already providing arms and hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid just so that the Philippine government can launch counterinsurgency operations like they did under Magsaysay, like they did under Macapagal, like they did under the hated dictator Marcos, under Cory Aquino, under Ramos. And here in the U.S., they're rounding up over 1,200 immigrants, mostly of Arab and Asian men, Arab and Muslim men, and detaining them without formally charging them. They're setting up military tribunals, secret military tribunals that can both jail and convict and even execute people in secret without any of us ever knowing. And they're trying to divide us now by saying that they're only questioning about 5,000 Arab and Muslim men about possibly so-called suspicious activity. And they're only planning to lay off a few thousand non-citizen, mostly Filipino airport security screeners because for some reason they don't think they can do the job that citizens can do. And then they're trying to say that by speaking out against all these injustices and defending our civil liberties, we're actually aiding the terrorists. They have the gall to claim that the terrorists abuse American freedoms to commit more terrorist acts against Americans. Well, the fact is that we know that America's bombing of innocent civilians in Afghanistan is actually just going to recruit a lot more people into being angry against the U.S. The government's repression of civil liberties brings us closer to the internment camps of the 1940s and martial law and fascism. And we as Filipinos know that martial law, sure it doesn't mean security, and it sure doesn't mean safety. All it means is that the police and the armed forces and the Secret Service and the INS and the CIA and the FBI can harass, jail, kidnap, murder innocent civilians. So on the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, we say, end the opportunism. Stop using our country. Stop enslaving our people. Don't detain or deport one more innocent person. Don't take one more step closer to martial law. Stop the war now. Maki baka! Wag matakot! Wag matakot! Maki baka!
All right, Roger, thank you from the Committee for Human Rights in the Philippines. Woo! Now we got the folks that are looking out that window. Wave these signs to them, because we got the truth that needs to be told. And we want to go with one of the chants. Yo, I heard someone asking them to come on down. I think we should say that for a while. Come on down! 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 All right, sisters and brothers, we're gonna go with the Philippines. We got to rage against the machine. From the Bay all the way to the Philippines, we got to rage against the machine. From the Bay all the way to the Philippines, we got to rage against the machine. From the Bay all the way to the Philippines, we got to rage against the machine. From the Bay all the way to the Philippines, we got to rage against the machine. Now, because we see that they're not coming down.
Our demands of this protest. We need to present them with what everybody outside wants to, a message that all of these protesters want to deliver to the consulate. And would actually ask them, like to ask them to come down and to see them personally from people outside.
We just want to invite them to come speak to us. They can say yes or no.
I have to talk to them.
The Philippines is in this war. Can you give this to them too? They know what we're asking for.
All right, 10-4.
You finish?
No.
You know where that
414?
410.
How bad will be the restaurant business?
No surprise.
No surprise! It's no surprise because the truth is always scary for those who are trying to uphold a lie. And we're coming with the truth. They may not come down, but we're going to post one of our demand letters up in their office so that they know why we were here. And we're going to begin proceeding down to the Japanese consulate. Now the route that we're going to take is we're going to go down this way to Stockton. Then we're going to make a left. We're going to go to Bush Street. And then we're going to make a right on Bush and proceed right down Bush to the second stop on this historic Tour of Shame event. People, don't stress on this. It's chant number 20. All right, chant number 20. All you guys gotta know is E-Bug suck. And when I say chant, you guys say E-Bug suck because that means that we want this thing to fall, that we're against it. And you'll recognize these words because we know them all too well because we've been the victims of them. So it goes like this. Imperialismo. E-Bug suck. Feudalismo. E-Bug suck. Burócrata capitalismo. E-Bug suck. GMA mismo. E-Bug suck. All right. We're gonna do that a few times before we proceed out of here to the second stop. Imperialismo! Feudalismo! Lucha capitalismo! GMA mismo! Imperialismo! Feudalismo! Lucha capitalismo! GMA mismo! All right. Allow puppet governments. All right, chat number seven. Do we need imperialist war? No. Do we need imperialist war? No. Do we need some global justice? Yes. Do we need some global justice? Yes. Are we gonna get it? People power. We need imperialist war. No. We need. Are we gonna get it? People power.
People united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
I love it.
Right, we're going up
Right into the financial district.
Come on, y'all. Who's the biggest terrorist in the world today?
U.S. government, the CIA.
Who's the biggest terrorist in the world today?
Today.
U.S. government, the CIA. Who's the biggest terrorist in the world today? U.S. government, the CIA. So all we had. Okay, y'all, keep it tight, keep it safe. We got the drugs.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war.
We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East.
We say peace.
U.S. out of
We are going to stay on the street, but on the right side parking lane. Right side parking lane. First time for chat number 13. We got 3 different languages, but we know we're all on a common agenda. Fighting for freedom and fighting for land. And we all are occupied Mexican Indian land. Stand by like this. You say war.
We say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war.
We say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war.
We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East.
All right, so the people can hear about what we need and what we don't need and what we want. Peace, conservation, and Pacific Islands coming together united. Because we know the people united will never be defeated. Now, unification with our Japanese comrades and allies at the Japanese consulate. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want imperialist war. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want imperialist war.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop the violence, stop the hate.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
We don't want no racist war.
5, 6, 7, 8. San Francisco. We're out here in a powerful of people.
Everybody come this way. Everyone come this way.
Because we know this is U.S. imperialists.
Number one terrorists
Stand up, puppet government.
are just another conflict.
U.S. imperialists.
Number one terrorists
Stand up, puppet government.
are just another conflict.
U.S. imperialists.
Number one terrorists.
Stand up, puppet government.
We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war.
We say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. You say Just do it, shame, and then when it's stop.
Monica, can you go over there and stop?
We've been a building government, and now it's a Japanese government with the same message. The same message of peace and no war. The same personal message of not vengeance on the for us. We want to make this circle go long and strong. Long and strong circle of truth. Yeah. We want to join the Japanese sisters and brothers who are also members of the Asian Pacific Islands Coalition Against the War. Sisters and brothers, keep this thing going.
Keep going, keep going.
Wow, this is tight. This is like,
All right.
oh shit.
You say war, we say peace. U.S. out in the Middle East. You say war, we say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war, we say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war, we say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war, we say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East.
You say war, we say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. U.S. out of the Middle East.
Michael, can you go to the side?
We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war. We say peace.
U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war.
We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war. We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. You say war. We say peace. U.S. out of the Middle East. We know what it feels like to have bombs drop on our people. We know what it feels like for our people to die because of the U.S. aggression. So let's go to chat number 4. I'm gonna yell, we know war, and if we say it, and you're gonna repeat, that's it. We know war, everybody. Come on, let 'em know. We know war, everybody. We don't want to hear this war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the lying, stop the hate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want to hear this war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the violence, stop the hate. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want to hear this war. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the violence, stop the hate. Thank you for coming. We will welcome everybody. 今日は日本領事館の前に来ていただいて本当にどうもありがとうございます。Thank you very, very much. We are U.S. Japan Norway Network. 私たちは戦争に反対する日米ネットワークです。これからプログラムを始めたいと思います。I am from, my name is Minori. I'm from U.S. Japan Norway Network. And I'd like to start this program right now. We have a couple of speakers. 今日はですね、ここに何人かのスピーカーの方を呼んでおります。まず最初に、ゆりこちやまさんに、スピーチをしていただきたいと思います。The first speaker is Yuri Kochiyama. She's going to speak first. Thank you, Yuri.
I have water in my bag if you want some. Okay.
Maybe we should back out this way.
これからゆりこちやまさんがスピーチを始めます。ゆりこちやま gonna speak now. Okay, I can.
Thank you. To the members of the Japanese consulate, today is December 7th, a date that has a different meaning to the people of Japan and the United States. The date, however, is significant. We, standing before you, are members of the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition Against the War and the U.S.-Japan No War Network. We are here as part of the tour of shame that we are conducting. Shame that you, an Asian nation, would join the monstrous military U.S. coalition for oil in the Middle East. We are against wars because of the devastation, havoc, death, and seeds of hate planted for coming wars. Since you have signed on to this cabal for oil, Asian nations are fearful that Japan will begin again to militarize and bring terror to that region. History lingers in those that have been victimized in the past. Asia has not forgotten the terrorizing occupation of Korea from 1910 to 1945. Asia remembers the horrendous massacres in Nanjing, Shanghai, and Manchuria in the 30s. And Asia remembers the starving of the Vietnamese people when she warred against France. It remembers most vividly the methodical organizing of sexual slavery of Asian women during World War II. They were mostly Koreans, but also Filipinos, Chinese, Indonesians, and other islanders who need reparation now for those who survived in the brutal and humiliating ordeal. Although most of the women are dead, but for those who survived and are barely able to live, immediate reparation should be given. Asian Pacific Islanders are hoping that Japan can transform itself and become an active, trustful, good neighbor to all API peoples, not a willing servant to U.S. peace, justice, and self-determination for all the peoples of the world. We must stop the greed for oil. Let the Mid-East develop its own oil and gas resources. Stop this inhuman farming. Stop this war.
Thank you, Yuri. Thank
David, do you think you can hold this to another speaker? Oh, you're going to take it?
Following international dispute, and we all know what the Japanese government did a few weeks ago is to hastily pass a legislation so that they can send 6 naval vessels to participate in foreign combat. Now, this has never happened since the end of World War II, ever since we enacted the Peace Constitution. There's hardly enough democratic oversight in the process of this legislation. We feel we were left out of the process, and we've been calling for peace out here, and this is an opportunity to submit our demands officially to the Japanese consulate representing the government of Japan in Tokyo. And our colleague here, Mariko, has the demands laid out, which she is going to read to us all. And the Japanese government consulate representative is down here to receive our demands. So we'd like to go ahead and read it out to y'all and share this moment with you guys to submit our demands.
Yeah. Bring that to
日本国内閣総理大臣日本国内閣総理大臣小泉純一郎様報復攻撃を支援する日本政府に対しての抗議及び要請書
This is addressed to the Prime Minister Junichiro Koizumi of Japan, and our demands are basically titled
demands to the Japanese government, which is supporting the retaliatory war against Afghanistan right now.
日米開戦の火蓋を切った旧日本軍によるパールハーバー攻撃の日12月7日が今年もやってまいりました。アメリカではいまだにこの日の記憶は生々しく、テロ事件以降憎しみと復讐心による国民意識の高揚と団結を扇動するがごとく、たびたび新聞テレビにおいて類似性が強調されています。
Today, 60th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day has come, and in the United States today, the memory of Pearl Harbor is evidently very raw. And ever since the attacks of 9/11, once again, as if to take advantage of the feeling of hatred and revenge arising in mass hysteria, we see the similarities being made of post-Pearl Harbor with post-9/11 in the media.
パールハーバー攻撃により始まった太平洋戦争はアジア太平洋全体を恐怖の戦場とし、数千万の人々の命を奪いました。アメリカ西海岸では11万もの日本人日系人が強制収容所に送られ、人権の保障されない生活を強要されました。そして広島、長崎に投下された原子爆弾は人類史上類のない瞬時大虐殺をもたらしました。戦争の傷跡は60年経った今も絶えることなく、癒えることなく、今日を生きる私たちにその悲劇を訴え続けています。戦争の被害者は常に名もなき普通の人々なのです。
What the Pearl Harbor attacks, what followed the Pearl Harbor attacks, basically known as the World War II, turned the entire Asia-Pacific region to a battlefield of blood and terror for all people, and it took the lives of tens of millions of innocent lives. And within the United States, Americans of Japanese ancestry, 110 in all, were sent to internment camps, deprived of all their civil rights and fundamental human rights. Now, we talk about nuclear weapons that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the United States, and we know what kind of mass murder that was. Now, 60 years after all that's happened, the wound still remains. We're still suffering from the consequences of its terror. And we have to remember that the victims of war are always the faceless, defenseless women and children, the poor, the weak.
パールハーバー60周年を迎えるこの年、戦後初めて自衛隊を海外戦闘地域へ派兵する日本政府の姿勢は、平和憲法による国民の安全保障から武力による安全保障へ大きな国家戦略の移行を感じさせ、過去の戦争の悲劇を新たな戦慄をもって私たちに思い起こさせます。
So on this 60th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day, for the first time, Japanese government has sent its own self-defense forces, as its military is called, to participate in foreign combat. And this attitude of the Japanese government basically to us indicates a clear shift from protecting or preserving security for its people based on its own peace constitution to trying to preserve so-called security with the use of force. And this is a very disturbing similarity of what happened after Pearl Harbor Day.
サンフランシスコベイエリア在住の日本の人々の市民グループ、戦争に反対する日米ネットワークでは、日系アジア太平洋諸国系アメリカ人とともに12月7日のパールハーバーデーを憎しみと復讐の日から過去の過ちを反省し、平和の誓いを新たにする日とするため、アメリカの報復攻撃を支援するフィリピン、日本両国への抗議、マーケットストリートでの反戦マーチ、国連プラザでの平和集会を共催します。
So on this day, U.S.-Japan No War Network, which is a group of folks from Japan organized for peace, gathered here with Japanese Americans and other colleagues of Asia Pacific region and our American friends to together remember the horrors of war and to try to turn this day from day of infamy as it's known into a day of peace. Yeah. Transform the day of infamy into the day of peace. And as we, as people who support the end to the retaliation of American government, the people of Japan, people of the Philippines, and people of Asia Pacific are united here today to submit our protest to the Philippine consulate and to the Japanese consulate, and then to finally rally for Pan-Asian solidarity for peace in the UN Plaza.
私たちは1、海外戦闘地域への自衛隊派兵を可能にするためのテロ対策特別措置法に抗議します。
We oppose the Anti-Terrorism Special Measures Act, which was passed so that the Japanese government could send naval vessels into the Indian Ocean so that it could participate in the mass killing of innocent lives.
2、国際紛争を解決する手段として武力の行使を放棄した憲法9条を厳守することを要請します。
And we urge and appeal to the Japanese government to respect Article 9 of our peace constitution, which clearly says we renounce war forever as a means of settling international dispute.
3、世界の人々の安全と平和を守るために日本国憲法の精神にのっとり平和的解決に向けてイニシアチブを取ることを要請します。
And finally, we urge the Japanese government to take on the spirit of our own peace constitution and actually take a proactive initiative to direct resources at its discretion to contribute to creating an international framework where real peace and real security can be guaranteed for all people on earth.
どうぞ私たちの声を真摯にお受け止めください。2001年12月7日、戦争に反対する日米ネットワーク。
And signed on this day of December 7th, 16th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day by the U.S.-Japan War Network.
Definitely deliver this hand to Japanese government in Japan.
Hi, my name is Zhu from Young Koreans United. 56 years have passed since Japan lost the World War II and demilitarized by the US and other allies. Many things have been changed since. For example, Japan is now one of the richest country in the world. But one thing that has never been changed is the right-wing Japanese politicians who keep trying to remilitarize Japan and go back to their glorious history past. We, Young Koreans United, know this very well because we have worked with the Korean victims of Japanese militarism in World War II. They are former sexual slavery of Japanese militarism who now became harmony grandmas, and people who became Japanese soldiers and slaves against their will. They are now dying of getting old and suffering with the disease they got from the painful past. But they never received any forms of apology from Japanese government, no reparation of course. We also hear popular politicians publicly denying their shameful history or even glorifying World War II on monthly basis. Japanese government even approved a textbook for children which contains right-wing agenda which glorifies World War II. Knowing that, how can we say Japan is ready to change the peace constitution? How can we say that they are not going to start a war again? 6 years after the Pearl Harbor attack, ironically, US government is helping them out. They already turned down the lawsuit by the World War II victims against Japan, while they didn't turn down the lawsuit by Jews against Nazi. Now US and Japan together are using this incident of September 11th tragedy
the thousands of lives died in New York to threaten the world peace, the peace in East and West Asia. But we see hope for peace by seeing people gather here shouting for peace. We appreciate Japan's Americans' efforts for fighting for peace. Peace and justice and for free all sounds familiar, although some pro-war people often use this phrase with other meanings. But we believe in this. We will get peace and justice when we keep struggle fighting for peace together. Thank you.
Alright, that was Zuwon from Young Koreans United, y'all! Alright, we got a long lineup of fabulous people here today, so we're gonna move on. Next, we have Naomi Quinones, and she's Japanese Peruvian, and she's a member of the No Say Network. Now, for your information, the No Say Network is going down to the Muslim Americans down there in Santa Clara. We want to show solidarity down there, and we hope maybe you can come down and join us down there as well. As a No Say member, I'm looking to teach people about what has gone on in the past during World War II, as well as make ties to what is going on these days. And I think it's really important to have, showing of support of people who actually understand, because I think that right now we are in the minority. Most of the people that I encounter don't really seem to care one way or another whether this war is going on, whether people are dying in Afghanistan or not. And it is those people that we must educate. I was folding some of these crates earlier today, and I was thinking to myself, well, why am I folding these? What are they really going to do? Well, for me, the answer at least is a symbol of this peace, of this solidarity, is something that I can do to show that I care. I was thinking about Beauty and the Beast, this Disney animated movie, and in this movie, in this cartoon, there's a character in there who I think his name is Gaston. He wants to go after the beast, and he tells all the townspeople, if you're not with us, you're against us. And I was thinking to myself, well, where have I heard this before? And yes, of course, I've heard it recently on national TV, where President Bush was basically saying the same thing. If you're not with us, you're against us. So basically, if we're not for this war, we're against the United States government. Well, that doesn't leave very much room for critical thinking. And I think we have to tell people and try to educate people and help them think a little bit more critically. Really, what does this mean? It means that we're putting together a fascist state, and we're letting it happen. Those of us who are standing here know that there's something wrong, but we need to do more to educate people and to get them to really start thinking critically. I get very frustrated myself when I can't even get anyone to understand what I'm saying, so I really do appreciate the show of support here. And I hope that you guys can also do your part to educate other people, the people who don't believe, the people who think that if you're not with us, you're against us. This kind of black and white thinking really leads to a lot more.
Sir,
stand there.
Blind support for this war. So, on behalf of... Thank you, Naomi. Alright, so we're actually going to do... I don't know who has it, but... Yeah.
Call and response. Thank you.
Alright, Japanese sisters and brothers, all Asian Pacific Islander sisters and brothers out here today. We're gonna move from this second stop of this historic tour, Shame, We're going to now proceed to the Solidarity Rally and Press Conference. It's going to happen near the UN Plaza. What we're going to do is we're going to proceed at a little bit of a faster pace than we took coming over here. We're going to head back to Market with help of the SFPD. We're going to cross Market Street to the other side and then proceed all the way down the busiest street in San Francisco with a strong, powerful, peaceful message of truth that we want peace and not war. We're going to go down a strong solidarity march. Let's start moving down Fremont towards Market Street. And we're going to continue chanting all the way. You say war.
We say peace. USA of the Middle East.
You say war.
We say peace. We say peace. USA of the Middle East. Got more flyers? We say peace.
Market Street. SFPD's gonna help us across. People of San Francisco out here on Market Street. Join us on the doing shame. We're coming out here with a message against pushing so-called war against terrorism. We know that war has never ever been the answer, especially for Asian Pacific Islander people and African Americans and native title people who are indigenous native people. BJ, wherever you're at, we would like to get those dancers out. We want to experience some Filipino vibration. Where's the imperialist? No! We need imperialist war? No! We need some global justice? Yes! We need some global justice? Yes! How we gonna get it?
People power!
We're gonna get it!
People power! People power! People power! Number one terrorist!
Go ahead. Government
are just another part of it!
U.S. imperialist!
Number one terrorist!
Tell the puppet government we're just
another part of it!
Okay, we're going to go to chant number 13. About what we need to do, I will not be divided. Bombing, murder, and fear.
U.S. out of everywhere!
Terrorist bombing, murder, fear.
U.S. out of everywhere! U.S. out of everywhere! Now even more!
Today's to shame. To the shame of nation and to the guys and people and all other people that agree that war has never been the answer to the terrorism that's going on right now. Please join us if you know that there are other ways to fight war against so-called terrorists. All right, here we go. Champions of war. I need your help. Stand number 7. I said 2. We need imperialist war. No! We need imperialist war.
No! We need some global justice! Yes!
We need some global justice.
Yes! People power! People power! People power! People power!
No, no, we need imperialist war.
No! Global justice!
No, we need some global justice.
Yes! People power! People power! People power! People power!
Japanese, Filipino sisters and brothers, and all other Southeast Asian and other peoples. We're out here today in San Francisco on a tour of shame. I'm gonna have some other chant leaders lead some chants. Where's my other chant leader? And BJ, if you're here, BJ, we need to bust those gongs out.
DJ, where are you?
We say peace, USA.